He's a grizzled, no-nonsense submarine captain with a soft spot for small dogs and cigars. That's right, today we're going to look at the life, times and campaigns of the OG or Big Daddy of steely-eyed submariners himself, Crimson Tide's Captain Frank Ramsey. With the recent passing of the legendary actor Gene Hackman, I've had several requests to look at the medals of arguably one of the best characters that he portrayed, Captain Frank Ramsey from Crimson Tide. We've previously covered Commander Hunter, played by Denzel Washington, so without further ado, let's submerge ourselves in the character of Captain Frank Ramsey, no pun intended, and look at his ribbon bar and also try and ascertain what military career he may have had. Ramsey's ribbon bar looks like he has 5 Gallantry, Achievement or Commendation medals, a couple with devices, 4 ribbon awards, 5 Expeditionary, Campaign or Service medals, and 2 Marksmanship awards. I have, however, spotted one mistake in these ribbons that does not align with his career path. I'm sure some eagle-eyed viewers may spot it too, but we shall cover that later. Ramsey has around 30 years experience in the Navy. As the movie is set in 1994-95, that means he joined the Navy in the mid-1960s. My guess is, being the grizzled, swashbuckling submariner that he is, Ramsey would have directly entered the submarine service and not initially spent time with the surface fleet before transferring over, like many sailors do. Likely joining the Navy as a junior officer, Ramsey clearly shows a Vietnam campaign medal in his ribbons, and would have cut his teeth there as a junior submariner during the Vietnam War. When you think of the Vietnam War, the images that immediately pop into your head are infantrymen wading through paddy fields with mud up to their knees, steaming jungle, and overhead choppers flying back and forth. Hardly the environment for submarines, you'd think. So what were these silent assassins of the deep doing, prowling off the Vietnamese coastline? During the Vietnam War, US submarines were employed for reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, and special operations support. The US Navy deployed submarines, particularly the nuclear-powered attack submarines, to monitor enemy movements and gather information on North Vietnamese naval activities. A good example of where we could see Ramsey involved in this Clandestine world as a crew member would be a mission conducted by the Skipjack class USS Sculpin in March and April of 1972. The US government believed supply trawlers were operating out of Hainan Island off the southern coast of the People's Republic of China and running arms, ammunition and supplies from the northern part of the Gulf of Tonkin down to the Viet Cong operating in the Pho Quoc region, the southernmost portion of Vietnam. Each of the trawlers could carry about 100 tons of munitions. After taking station off Hainan Island, the crew of the Sculpin used imagery intelligence provided by P-3 Orion aircraft photographing suspected trawlers to identify a suspected gunrunner and began tracking her down the South China Sea. As the trawler made its way down the Gulf of Thailand, heading towards Vietnam, the submarine continued to intercept radio messages sent by the trawler. This was to try and ascertain what cargo she had, the origin of the crew members, and any other intelligence that they could pick up. During this operation, the submariners faced continuous threats from operating in shallow water, littered with dangerous wrecks and treacherous shoals, as well as picking their way through heavy commercial traffic, all the while trying not to be detected. After being tracked for an incredible 2,500 miles by the US submarine, the trawler suddenly turned off her lights and made a dash for the Vietnamese coastline. The submariners, being naturally aggressive, wanted to torpedo the vessel, but were denied by MACV command. Instead, a South Vietnamese destroyer escort was sent to intercept the gunrunner. After refusing to stop for an inspection, the South Vietnamese destroyer fired her 3-inch guns, hitting the trawler. A fire then broke out on board. Suddenly, with a thunderous roar which the crew felt through the hull of the submarine, the trawler exploded and disintegrated as its contraband cargo detonated. Incredibly, the South Vietnamese destroyer managed to pick up 16 survivors. all of whom spoke Vietnamese. They confirmed that their vessel was engaged in gun running. The ship carried sufficient arms and ammunition to supply the Viet Cong in Pho Cause AO for a minimum of 60 days. Her destruction thus made a significant contribution to the safety of US and South Vietnamese troops in the area and set back the enemy's military operations there considerably. In other operations along the Vietnamese coastline, US submarines were involved in insertion and extraction of special forces. An example of this could be inserting UDT frogmen into river systems to carry out demolition of bridges and other infrastructure, or mining enemy ports. Submarines also conducted reconnaissance of beach landing zones prior to any amphibious assault. More conventional tasks also included monitoring Soviet submarines who were prowling round US carrier groups operating in the Gulf of Tonkin. During these daring missions off the Vietnamese coastline, Ramsey, a junior officer, would have likely learned many valuable lessons from the periscope-peeking professionals of the World War II era submariners. These veterans were now coming to the end in the mid-60s of their careers in the US military, but had a wealth of information and knowledge which they could hand down to junior ratings and officers. These dashing and debonair submariners gained a reputation as wild party animals when alongside. With their extra submarine pay, swaggering devil-may-care persona, and tales of daring do, they were the self-appointed babe magnets of the armed forces. The Marines soon learned to step aside when the submariners were in town. After Vietnam, in the 1970s, Ramsey quickly progressed through the ranks. He states that Admiral Rickover gave him his command. Hyman Rickover served an incredible 63 years in the US Navy, only retiring in 1982, 5 weeks after his 82nd birthday. We can assume that just prior to his retirement that he gave Ramsey his first command. In the early 1970s, the Navy began planning a modernisation of its fleet ballistic missile program. The result was the Trident I missile and the Ohio Class SSBN. The Trident I C-4 missile deployed in 1979 and continued in service until 2005. As captain of a nuclear submarine, Ramsey would have been responsible for operating the Trident missile system. The Ohio Class SSBN submarines entered service in 1981 and were the largest ballistic missile submarines ever built for the US Navy. They were armed with 24 Trident I missiles. In total, 18 Ohio Class submarines were built. We've gone into Cold War submarine operations quite extensively in previous videos such as The Hunt for Red October, Captain Ramius, and also Commander Hunter from Crimson Tide. I'll leave links at the end of this video, but we can confidently state that Captain Ramsey throughout this decade must have built up even more experience and by the end was an extremely competent and capable submarine captain. It's stated in the movie that Captain Ramsey inserted Navy SEALs into Panama during Operation Just Cause in 1989. Confusingly, there is no Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal I would have assumed he would have earned. Perhaps the mission was so covert that, like many submarine missions, no medal was awarded to the crew, unless anyone else has any suggestions in the comments. We do go into Operation Just Cause in our video on Culinary Commando Casey Ryback from Under Siege, so in the interest of time, I will leave this for now. It's also stated in the movie that Ramsey was involved in Desert Storm. The war in the Gulf was the largest assembly of warships since World War II. The US Navy launched 288 Tomahawk missiles during Desert Storm. 276 of those were from surface ships. However, the other 12 came from 2 Los Angeles Class nuclear attack submarines, the USS Pittsburgh and the USS Louisville. The Louisville fired 8 missiles from underwater in the Red Sea, whilst the Pittsburgh fired 4 from the eastern Mediterranean. This was the first time land-targeted missiles had been launched from submerged ships. Ramsey must have been commanding one of the boats. At some point, Captain Ramsey acquires a dog, and for some reason, perhaps because there's no appropriate kennels around, or the website Borrow My Doggy is down, he decides to take the dog to sea with him on regular patrols. As Ramsey states, Jack Russell's smartest dogs alive. Someone disagrees with that statement. At ease, sailor. Therefore, in summary, for Captain Ramsey's medals, we have the Legion of Merit with Gold Star Award, a Bronze Star, a Meritorious Service Medal, a Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Star, a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, Navy Unit Commendation Ribbon, Navy Meritorious Unit Commendation, Navy E-Ribbon Efficiency with 3 E devices, Navy Expeditionary Medal, the National Defence Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, Southwest Asia Service Medal, Navy Sea Service Deployment Ribbon with devices, I can't make them out, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Rifle Marksmanship Medal, and Pistol Marksmanship Medal. Genuine question, but if anyone knows why the US Navy issues marksmanship medals rather than badges or patches or just ribbons, it'd be interesting to know the reasons behind that. Well, I think it's just K-19 the Widowmaker to do now in our submarine movies genre. I have had other requests for real-life characters as well, so I will get around to that. But if anyone else has any other suggestions for submarine movies, the black and white ones can be hard as it's difficult to distinguish the actual colours on the ribbons. But yeah, if anyone else has any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you found some value from this, and I'll see you in the next one.